So we, at Tech Field Day, we always wanted time to do more talking back and sharing what we're doing in the community, because, you know, a lot of times it seems very focused on, you know, the enterprise products. And sometimes people have said, you know, there's more to it than that. There's more to life than that. We're supposed to be doing something here. And so what we did a few times in the past, and what we're going to do now, is have some time for the folks who you see sitting around the table come to this side of the table and present what they're up to. And since this time for Virtualization Field Day, we've got a lot of folks who are involved in some pretty cool community things. I thought that it would be good for them to spend some time talking about how they're reaching out to the tech community. So that's what we're doing now. These are community sessions, and we are going to post these as well as the sponsored product presentations to the Tech Field Day website. So let's kick it off. We've got Eric Wright, Disco Posse himself, and I'm going to step out of the way and let Eric explain what he's going to talk about here.
Okay. Well, thank you, everybody. Welcome to all you fine people at home and those who are going to watch on recording, and everybody in the room. This is a really amazing honor for me to be here. Thank you, Stephen, and all the team here that helped to support this. And this has been a really great program and a great couple of days. So what I wanted to talk about is an odd thing, and I call it community. That's not the odd part, but the IT Imaginarium. Now, the Imaginarium is kind of a strange word, and we're going to get into what it's all about. So, you know, the whole purpose of this is how I use and how we can use community to grow our skills and to help share to help grow other people's skills. So a little about me, for those who don't already know me, my name is Eric Wright. People know me as discoposse.com or at discoposse on Twitter. I'm a systems architect. I'm a blogger and a cloud pundit. I just made that one up, but I like to stick it on there anyway. So you can go, there's this really long LinkedIn URL, but trust me, if you Google out Disco Posse on LinkedIn, fairly sure you're going to land on me. So that's a good way to go. I absolutely recommend, you know, folks that want to reach out through all these medium. I'm very happy to connect and share information.
So when you type your name, you actually get you? That's
yes.
Some other guy named Disco Posse?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So community in itself, by definition, or at least by the Wikipedia version of the definition, it talks about a group of people that live together, and especially one practicing a common ownership, such as a community of nuns. And a lot of it that gets referred to as we talk about local communities. And we grew up in these local communities. That was the whole purpose of why we called it a community. It was a small group of people in a localized area. Well, the difference that comes with the way that we do things now is the communities are now bound by how we do things or what we do, not where we live. And that's a really amazing thing. So community itself has grown beyond the traditional definition. It's really, you know, like the folks at home and the folks that are here. It's viewers like you that actually drive this community, because it's not just us, you know, speaking in an echo chamber to each other. There's a significant amount of that. We're a large group, and obviously we talk about a lot of the same things and we share a lot of the same goals. But ultimately it's the viewers and the attendees and the readers of all these blogs and all of our Twitter feeds that actually create this community that we live in. So before we get started, I always quote James Lipton. He's one of my favorite guys, if you know Inside the Actor Studio, and he says, "We start, as always, at the beginning." So we all have our own story about this, so I'm quickly going to walk through why I started blogging. It's kind of a very small story. I won't go into the Disco Posse name, that's a whole different thing. I've got an About Me page, and you can read all about what that's from. So I used to go out and I used to search out information, because I did like everybody else did. I worked in systems administration, and I used to have to find problems. Well, I didn't have to find problems, I had problems. I had to find solutions for those problems. So what I would do is I would Google out the solution, and I would never find it. You'd end up on page 8 of your Google search results, and you would find forum after forum with people with exactly the same problem, hundreds upon maybe even thousands. And just like this poor fellow, Denver Coder 99, who was chasing down, we would find everybody just had the exact same issue, and then the post would be archived. It would say closed due to inactivity. No answer since 2007. So the problem would always come where, what do you do if you actually get stuck? Well, I was lucky in this case, because I didn't get stuck. On page 8 of Google results, because I'm nutty like this and I will keep chasing that like a raccoon after a shiny object. I finally found the solution for a problem that I had. And I realized, what's the first thing that we do when we actually find the solution to a problem that we've chased for hours and hours?
Fix the problem.
We fix the problem, and then what's the second thing we do?
Forget about it.
Write down what we did.
You see, that's the new thing. That's where we do. But what we traditionally do, and what most folks do, is they go up to the upper right-hand corner and they hit that little red X on Internet Explorer, because they're done. They found their problem. They've solved it. So what I did was I had this very small problem. It's a goofy problem, really, if you think about it. I was just running scheduled clones and snapshots against a lot of my VMs, and I got this weird error. It said, protocol error from VMX. A general system error has occurred. Let me tell you, when you Google that out, that's why you get pages upon pages of results, because everybody looks after the same thing. It's a very generic error. With a very generic fix, just restart the VMware Tools service, and that fixed the issue. Seemingly simple, but I thought, why did I have hundreds of locations and no one actually wrote this very simple answer down? So I did. I had this goofy blog that I started up just because it was something to do. I wrote about music and running and biking and other things like this. So I put a couple of tech articles up. Just literally, I say articles there. This is exactly how long it was. This literally is the article that I wrote. And then suddenly I was a blogger. Now, I don't know what actually made me a blogger, or how you have to qualify for that. I'm in a room full of people who I generally talk about as real writers and bloggers, and you know, I've tried to kind of earn my teeth in that game. And this is what happens when I realized that the more that I wrote stuff down, the more people came to find it. I'd Google Analytics, and all of a sudden I realized that little post that I had suddenly started getting traffic. And that was the interesting thing. Like, I was organically being discovered by about 10 people a day for this protocol error. You know, generic error has occurred. And I thought, if they're finding that that's useful, then maybe I should, you know, write down the other things that I fixed.
Seriously, the VFD3 announcement got that much traffic?
It did, yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, so that in itself is a real, you know, that's what happens with the community and the folks that we work with here. So I started writing about mostly PowerShell stuff. In fact, that's what I was mostly known for. I was a PowerShell guy. And as I wrote and wrote and wrote, you know, not a whole lot really happened. But I would get a steady state of traffic and, you know, started doing Twitter and broadcasting out. And then all of a sudden what happened was the folks from Microsoft reached out from the Scripting Guys blog, and they said, hey, we saw what you did. That's a really cool idea. Can you actually do something a little bit beyond that? And how'd you like to write it for the Scripting Guys blog? Like, massive honor for me, because I'm a guest poster for Microsoft. You know, may not be a big thing to a lot of folks, but it was a pretty cool thing for me. And so I did that. I wrote, actually, it ended up being a 2-part article on taking Exchange contacts from a CSV and a whole PowerShell process to create and update these on the fly. I did a 2-article post because not only I did it for using, you know, 2003 and 2008 for PowerShell, because the commandlets are different. And then what happened was, whammo, there was a spike, and I thought, ooh, if I share really cool content, people come back for this stuff. So I started to dig in a little deeper, and I started to not just share what I was doing, but I actually started writing specifically for deeper issues. There was a PowerShell CSV series I did, and it actually jammed out some pretty good content. And then what ended up happening was, slowly but surely, there was a steady organic rise. Except around January. I have no idea what everybody does in January, but you guys all just disappear. So you'll see there's big little drops there. So people kind of quiet down around that time. And then I did a little post on OpenStack running on VMware Workstation. Now, truthfully, I was a bit selfish, because I knew maybe, hopefully the guys from VMware Workstation will think this is a good idea, and maybe they'd share it out. And they did exactly that. And then all of a sudden, a big spike happened. And then I was very lucky, because then I got the call from Stephen, and he said, how'd you like to be in Virtualization Field Day 3? So I put up that article, and that's what happened. And this has continuously grown. You know, my traffic has grown. But it's not just about me, this is about us, and about anybody that wants to do this. It's entirely possible. And that's where we enter the IT Imaginarium. So an Imaginarium, by definition, again, thank you, Wikipedia. I don't think the actual dictionary has a definition for an Imaginarium. Imaginariums are generally literally places. There's a place called the Imaginarium of Science, and it's more like a museum of anything. It's basically a place devoted to the imagination. You know, we have this every day. We walk around with it. It's called our own imagination. You may know there was a very interesting movie called The Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus. It's an obscure movie, but it was really great, and for a lot of interesting reasons. And mostly, if you knew what the concept of was, it there was this trailer of crazed fools that went around like a theater group, and then you could go behind the mirror, and then anything could happen behind there. Effectively, there was this roaming caravan of people who then suddenly could become anything they wanted. So just imagine that you could be anything you wanted in the IT Imaginarium. And this is what happens when we come to events like this, or we go to local community events. You know, we would see people, I would go and I would see guys like Scott Lowe, I would see David Davis, and I would see these guys speak at events. And I would think, wow, these guys are rock stars. So I would think, wow, you know,
the other Scott Lowe.
Yeah. So we would have this vision of literally a separation, and you know, they're on a stage, they're speaking, and they're authors, real genuine bloggers, folks that have cut their teeth in the IT industry for years. But really, a lot of us had done the same thing, and that was the cool thing, because one day I met the other Scott Lowe, not this other Scott Lowe, but the other Scott Lowe. So we'll call him other Scott Lowe. And Scott was at a local VMUG, and I went over and I made a point of going over and talking to him after, which was great because he actually stopped and talked. A lot of times when people come, you know, it's not like you're going to stop and talk to, you know, Pat Gelsinger, which strangely enough we get to in our community. But what ended up happening was suddenly Scott reached back into the audience and he says, "How'd you like to come up and do a presentation one day?" And I thought, that's a great idea. But I don't even know what I would speak about. But the cool thing was that's exactly what happened. All of a sudden I had the opportunity to be in a place where we were all rock stars. And then as we grew and grew in this community, that's exactly what I wanted to do for other people. So what I tried to do, promote every kind of user group you can be a part of. Now I'm a member of the Toronto VMUG, as most of you know, and most people at home. So VMUG is a great organization. I highly recommend that people support your local VMUG. It's a localized group, they're physically close to you, they share the same technological love that you do about VMware products and partners. You know, in fact, it even extends beyond that. There's a lot of other location groups that you can find. OpenStack user groups are also most likely in the city you're in. AWS user groups, if you're a cloud person and you want to talk about AWS, there's one of those too. If you're an application developer, there's even Node.js. Wow, that must be a fun meeting. Anyways, there's a Linux user group. I actually started a long time ago as a younger lad, way younger. And I went to a Linux user group, and these were full-out neckbeard, like short-sleeve shirt, fat tie, original Linux user groups. We were talking on Token Ring and Bizarro stuff, but it was cool. We used to do install fests and just strange things, but it was cool. It was this community, this little user group that had effectively every product, every feature, everything that's out there has a user group. I mean, really, it's knitting and reading groups are the same thing. But the cool thing about this is it's free. Wow. Free as in beer, as in kittens. Well, not as in kittens, because kittens cost you down the road. So does beer if you drink a lot of it. Who knows what will happen. But we have things like the Khan Academy. If you don't already know about the Khan Academy, it's basically K-12 education that you can get online for free. And it even goes beyond. There's university level courses. iTunes University has actual university level, you know, from North American universities, worldwide universities as well. It's not like a full curriculum, but there's a lot of really cool stuff in there for science and mathematics, computers. Codecademy, for those folks who wanted to pick up a little bit of Python, a little bit of Ruby. It's a great place to do it. It's very easy walkthroughs. Tech Field Day. You're at one of the coolest community events that you can find. We've brought together a team of rock stars, and basically we've opened the door to anybody can participate. They can ask questions through Twitter. Everybody is here today because of the community that we're in. OpenStack Summit. Now, if you can't attend the OpenStack Summit directly, they post most of it on YouTube very shortly after. AWS reInvent does the same thing. You know, we actually, most of us who go to VMworld, we have access to all the events, you know, after the fact. We can go to all the sessions online. And you'll pardon me, I didn't specifically mention some of the other cost-based ones, and there's a lot of great training resources, but I want to talk about sort of the free aspect, because there are many, many more. You know, if we do go up to that next level, and mildly paid resources like Pluralsight, formerly TrainSignal, that was a great place to go. You've got unlimited resources there for a very low monthly fee. Like, that's the kind of thing you can get at. There's lots of other small, you know, educational resources that are low cost, and you've got an access to a ton of great people. That's all those rock stars. They give these courses. Social media. No better way to create and grow a community than through social media. You know, again, I sort of preach to the choir here in a way, but at the same time, we've all come at it from different ways and different durations that we've been online. You know, by being active in social media, even when you don't necessarily know how to do it, just do what you saw most of us do today. You can grow your network because we're no longer bound by the boundaries of country, by language. We've got literally folks from around the world here today who speak natively in different languages than we speak here today, especially, you know, people that say a boot. We're talking all languages, so even Canadian is represented here. That's
4 different versions of English here.
That's right. Now these are asynchronous conversations, which is a pretty cool thing. I'm sure there's a UDP joke in there somewhere, but effectively that's what it is. You can send somebody a tweet, and it's not going to be immediate that you're going to get the answer. Who knows? It could be a week before you get the answer, but the cool thing is they may get back to you. You know, so these are. It's not a real-time thing. You don't have to be immediately committed and fully committed to it. You can be sort of mildly active in it. It's continuous community activity. This just goes on all the time, 24/7. Because we're from around the world, we're represented in every time zone. So it never stops or starts. It's just continuous. You have real-time access to your peers. Where else can you just say, hey, what's happening, man? I'm there. And you're there. It's a really cool, you know, it's not often that you have that close of access, especially when people are around the world. DM is the new SMS, you know, especially when you're from around the world. Way cheaper to DM through Twitter. I don't know all your phone numbers, but I don't need to. It's great. Now, the Care Bears taught us a magical thing. The sharing is caring. Doesn't mean we all have to hug each other, but we can. It's all right. We're cool with it. But charity itself comes in many forms. And really, if you look at around the world, we talk about opening up education to people that don't have access to it. Education really is a key differentiator in economic development. And that means every level of economic development. I'm not necessarily talking about having to go to a third world nation and open things up. I'm talking right in your own backyard. Sorry, this is what happens. It's my Canadian cough. So volunteering your skills is easy to do, especially at a local VMUG. You want to present, you want to share, you want to just join the leadership team. You discover new contacts. You end up at places like this. I'm living proof that this stuff can actually work. And when you feed back to somebody in the community who didn't know that they had access to a rock star or a peer or a friend, the thank you is the best thing that you can get. There's really not much more than you can feel good. And when someone says, man, they come up after your presentation, they say, thank you so much. I learned a lot. I think I might try this. Or there's a lot of reactions you're going to get. I hear this all the time. And I have a very simple statement. Never ever say, that's above my pay grade. We do a lot of really weird things in our jobs. We do a lot of really weird things in our life. Not necessarily the thing that you had the plan to do. We have the chance to do things that are great for people that are above and below our pay grade. If you ever say, that's above my pay grade, you're right, it is, and it always will be. So there's kind of a theory called act as if. This is where you continue to act as if something is real. Portray yourself in that position. We talk about it in interviews. It actually goes way back to 1896. William James is the fellow that came up with this concept. It's spanned out beyond this, but he says, act as if what you do makes a difference. And it does. So if you think like the champ, if he knew he was the greatest before he ever was. It's kind of like the fake it till you make it. We always hear that one. I like act as if better. It sounds a lot nicer than fake it. But visualization is a common tool. You know, running these presentations, if you want to give a presentation, you don't just carve off a presentation, then sit on a plane and then try and give it here. No, seriously, you don't do that, because that's what happens. Sometimes you may not be fully rehearsed, but this is a great chance. You know, you do go through things a couple times. You visualize your job. You visualize being successful in an interview. You visualize sharing information. And this is how you can sort of go beyond barriers where you may not be comfortable. You perform the role, and that role may become yours. In our world where we work, we've learned a lot here today. We learned about IPv6. The cool thing is you can go back to your office and you can chat about IPv6. You can act as if you know what IPv6 is. You can talk about gratuitous neighbor discovery. And that's not the, you know, covet thy neighbor type, but this is the, you know, IPv6 kind. You can defy your own self-doubt. It's a confidence that you can grow, and when you grow your confidence, it gives something back to people around you because they feel better about you and they begin to feel better about themselves. And the best thing you can do is lead by example. If you want to grow a community, you actively grow that community. And the amazing thing is, this is kind of more for the folks that are watching online and that are watching this after the fact. You can do this with our help. There's mentoring programs. Now, we remember last year that Scott Lowe, the other Scott Lowe, did a blog post, and he talked about putting the U back in UG. So putting the user back in user group. He says, I'm going to pick 5 people, and I'll coach you through giving a presentation. Because we want community at the community events. You know, we're lucky. We're sponsored by vendors, great vendors who support us in what we do. It's not entirely altruistic because they're actually, you know, talking to us, but they're talking to us because we're going to go and share that message with our community. So what ended up coming out of Scott's post was that not only did 5 people volunteer, probably, you know, not too long after, because Scott's a great resource, but in the comment pool, I think it was probably about 25 people at least, myself included, said, I'm good for 5 too. You know, we can only do so many people because we have so much time, but I immediately reached out and said, absolutely, this is a great idea. And what it was just simple things, giving presentation tips for people that just aren't comfortable, they've never done it before. You know, why would I just suddenly pick this up? You don't just sit there and give a presentation to your cat. You want to talk to your peers. In fact, the group that I did, a couple of folks, it was more for corporate. It wasn't even for our user group. And they actually went on and they said, hey, thank you very much. Like, I actually gave a presentation at work and now I actually may have a better chance at a promotion. It also grows the community, because as we give back into the community and we lead by example, and we bring more people here. There's 6 delegates here who've never been at a field day before. That's proof that we lead by example and grow the community. You increase your knowledge capital. You know about IPv6 now, and a lot more. You know, we asked a lot of great questions and we learned a lot of great information, and we're going to continue to do that, which ultimately just makes everything better. So ultimately, you increase your value to yourself, and you may, along the side of that, actually increase your salary, you know, or your role. You may get a promotion. But if nothing, you know, you feel more comfortable and confident in what you can do. You can learn to give great, exciting presentations, because nobody likes boring presentations. So then we thought, I know this is a self-promotion, the shameless thing I'm going to do here, but an idea that came out of community was Angelo Luciani is the co-leader of the Toronto VMUG, and we had this idea, and we said, wouldn't it be really neat to use the idea of a reality show based on IT? We kind of talked about being like VCDX meets The Apprentice, because we thought, why not give people a venue where we can just hand them something to do, and they have to come back with a response, and they have to defend how they came up with that idea. So we did. We came with this virtual design master. We pretty much just winged it. We came with this idea at a basketball game. We were chatting, and the next thing you know, it was live. And we actually had 5 amazing people. We had great judges. And importantly, it was community contributed. Everything that fed into this program was from the community. The challenge came out of the community. In fact, the community member is Melissa Palmer, and she's actually now part of the program in season 2, because we wanted to give her another venue, and that's great. That's exactly what we wanted to do. We promoted learning. We have folks who had no idea, but they hadn't approached some of these solutions in this way before. And so they learned a lot through this program. And we pushed them outside of their comfort zone in a good way. We made them go above and beyond where they thought they could go. And the proof came in the results. We were lucky. We had great judges who helped us out, and we had a lot of great feedback, and there was a lot of thank yous. And we were thanking them because we were thinking, wow, you folks helped us make this happen. And they said, wow, thank you for letting us be a part of this. And I thought, wow, you know, we really all appreciate this. We really had this amazing, neat community that we built. It ended up being a worldwide audience, which, you know, we loved the idea, but it actually seemed kind of bizarre in the end. You're like, wow, people really watch this from around the world. Just like all of our communities, there was no more boundaries. And now, actually, as we go into the next season, you know, because of the work that was done and because of the great community feedback, vendors have come on board to enable us to grow this community and do more with more people. You know, so this is a way that suddenly a program developed. And the true value of community in what we do is not just in what we learn ourselves, you know, or what we know ourselves in sharing. But if you ever think, whenever you go anywhere, everyone that you will ever meet knows something that you don't. And that's true. We know a lot about IPv6, so I'm never going to let that go. And a simple rule of thumb, if you are the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. At some point, there's no value in yourself in just being the one that everybody comes to, because you don't ever grow yourself. The community is so large that there's always somebody who's a little smarter than you. And what's cool is that they're going to want to share back down with you. Now, unfortunately, there's a bit of a time crunch problem, so occasionally it gets a little overwhelming. But as Cody Bunch taught me, he says, if you think you've bitten off a little bit more than you can chew, sometimes you just have to chew harder. And I've been chewing harder a lot here. You folks inspired me to do some really great things, and I'm proud to be part of this community. And hopefully, you know, especially to the folks that are at home, this community can give back. And again, you know, we love to be a part of this, and we want to share more. And thank you all, because without the community, I know I wouldn't be here, and I know a lot of other folks who are going to come here after me have been given this opportunity because of what's gone on here today. So thank you very much. Good, you guys didn't heckle. I was worried about that.
You know, you look a little like Bill Nye. Gotta get rid of this.
It's the nose. It's the nose. So, but again, you know, it's been a great event, and you know, I know we've got a lot of great feedback online. I know I've gotten great feedback, and like I said, you guys are my peers and my idols and my rock stars. So I'm pretty cool to imagine that I can actually be here among the crowd.